I'm incredibly excited today because there are a lot of people on this planet that you can hear speak about topics, and there's a lot of that you can just throw out the window because they don't know what they're talking about. But when you talk about White House correspondent, when you talk about author, when you talk about a journalist, that's the type of individual that gets to the truth of things. And so today we have Bill Koenig who's come here. You're going to tell us of some truth that you have seen and feel and experienced. I want to know the expert's opinion. I know that's why we're here today as well.
Well, thanks, Joshua. You know, we know that the biblical significance of the land of Israel.
Yes, sir.
God gave it, Genesis 15:18, from the Euphrates River through about 4 or 5 modern-day Arab countries and to the Great River in Egypt. And this is God's covenant land. And I've documented over many years, 25 plus years, when we pressure Israel to divide their land, we have these enormous record-setting catastrophes that happen the same day within 24 hours. And I noticed the greater the pressure on Israel to create an Arab state in Judea and Samaria and possibly divide Jerusalem, the greater the corresponding catastrophe. And this has happened all the way back to the perfect storm in 1991 when George Herbert Walker Bush was calling on Israel to give back the land they obtained in a war of self-defense in the Six-Day War, as 30-foot waves were crashing into his home in Kennebunkport, Maine, at the very moment he was doing that. So it's been quite a history.
You're saying it's a little coincidental, right? There's
Yeah,
no coincidence.
Yes, it's beyond.
That's what's so incredible about God and the earth, that He is always going to confirm, His word. And so you see signs, wonders, and miracles in addition to all the facts happening. I didn't know about the 30-foot waves. I've lived in Maine. So the idea of that high of a wave hitting Kennebunkport, which I've been to at that time of year, is not a thing that happens normally.
It was the perfect storm. It was. They found out later it was actually hurricane force winds. And rather than going from west to east, it was going east to west, crashing into his home at the very time he was calling on Israel to give up this very important covenant land.
It's something you don't do. And today the tone has changed, as it generally has. We 1 second support Israel, and the next second everyone is standing against her. This war that broke out, we were actually in Israel on October 7th when the first missiles were fired. And there's a lot of people now that have jumped into the ring and said, this is Psalm 83, we're already in the tribulation, this is Gog and Magog. What do you see this timeline-wise? What is it, or what could it become, the war that's happened right now with Israel and Hamas?
Well, a couple things that are really important. On September 22nd, Bibi Netanyahu was at the UN, and the Biden brokered U.S. Israeli-Saudi deal was about to be consummated. There was so much enthusiasm. Even bin Salman, from Crown Prince bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, was on U.S. TV talking about this special moment of a normalized relations with Israel. And Netanyahu, this was such a poignant message that we're about ready to move into a time of great peace in Israel, with the Palestinians, and in the Middle East. And that this was a record moment, a record-setting moment. And friends of mine on the inside in Israel were concerned, what did Netanyahu promise to the Saudis? Did it have to do with the Temple Mount, sovereignty, and issues like that? But it was so prophetic, I believe, because there was a euphoria in the international community hearing an Israeli and Saudi leader talk about this new moment of peace in 2 weeks and a day after, when you all were in Israel, October 7th, changed things dramatically. So what Netanyahu was talking about at the UN was completely different 15 days later. And so I think that what that does, Joshua, it leads us into the prophetic alignment. I address this often. Our American presidents have all, they're friends of Israel in many contexts, but their peace efforts have accelerated final day events. And that's what we're seeing today, right before Ezekiel 38 and 39, Jeremiah 49, 34 through 39, that deals with modern day Elam, which is Iran. It's just accelerating prophetic events, and I think we're right there right now.
Wow.
Again.
And the idea that the acceleration is happening by, like you said, American presidents and whatnot is a very sobering concept to think as a nation. It's often asked to us, where is America in all of end times prophecy? And I would say that if this kind of stuff keeps on happening, there might be a reason why we don't see America in that time period. Turkey is another interesting thing to look at because Turkey is allegedly very, I don't know, secular, right? They don't
Absolutely.
take sides, and all of a sudden that's been changing. Tell me about Turkey and what's going on.
Absolutely. Erdogan's a key player. I think he could very possibly be a greater key player than even Putin. Some Greek scholars point to Turkey having a more significant role in Ezekiel 38 and 39. Turkey is in NATO, but they're also very close with Russia. They're providing S-300s, S-400 missile defense systems. Last July, right after Biden left the Saudi Arabia after begging oil producers to produce more oil for the United States, 72 hours later, we had Erdogan, Putin meeting with Khomeini in Iran. So he is very tight with Putin. He's tight when it comes to political events with the Iranians, as well as meeting with the president of Iran. We're watching him very closely. One note here: he was playing to the Arab Street during Arab Spring. I mean, he was when you saw the overthrow of the government, the Mubarak government in Egypt, and the Muslim Brotherhood taking over. Erdogan was becoming a bigger and bigger voice, a great supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood. And then General al-Sisi overthrew the Muslim Brotherhood, so it diminished some of Erdogan's attempt at going for that 80 million population country to have an even more significant role. But he's been playing to the Arab Street. A lot of young Arabs, they're very young. He's been playing to that, and I think he's a very key player, and there's going to be more and more pressure on him. The irony is we have a U.S. base in Turkey that we just put 2 B-2 bombers in recently, and there was some tension at the end of Trump's term. What are we going to do about this? We've got 25 or so nukes in this very important base within Turkey. So that could complicate things going forward. Erdogan was open to peace with Israel, Herzog, Netanyahu, and now he's calling Netanyahu the butcher of Gaza and should be taken to the International Criminal Courts. But I think he is a very significant final day player that we keep an eye on very closely.
It's so interesting, this thing we call news today. You're typically just hearing people that are shaking their fists and ranting against, like I said, the Palestinian marches. It was Israel's killing, Israel's doing this, all these things. And in just the few short minutes we've been talking together, you've provided nothing but facts that bring clarity and focus to what's really going on behind the scenes. We know that the enemy is always using distraction, trying to get us focused on something else while he slips his plan in. So now my question would be to you, to tell people what to watch for next or what you see coming next. What's your opinion about the next step of where all this is leading to and what we should pray for?
We're at a very interesting stage. I know before the ceasefire was broken, there was hope. Even Hamas was attempting to get more days, which means they were repositioning better, disguising their plans. The more time that they gave, they were 10, 12, 15 at a time. And but typical, they never fulfill anything they ever agree to. I know Hamas has been hoping that now's the time for Iran and Hezbollah to get in. Some people believe Hamas came out too early. Iran was not ready. Iran is patient, strategic. They got a plan. And when you think about Iran, they've had one nuclear scientist after another assassinated. They've had Israel get in and out of the country with their nuclear plans. They've seen their, through Stuxnet virus and other viruses getting inside their nuclear system, electric system. You've seen one shipment after another going into Syria and Lebanon taken out by Israel, and they've done nothing. I mean, that's how patient and strategic and timely. So I've done quite a bit of interviews since October 7th. I haven't sensed now's the time because it's not their time. They're going to make that decision. Israel has to make a decision on their red line. They've been close a couple times. But I think the next couple weeks could be very interesting. Will Hezbollah get pulled in? I mean, there's some action going back and forth between Israel and Hezbollah. More weapons are getting put into Damascus airport, which keeps getting hit. And then also the Houthi rebels back in Yemen, backed by Iran, are firing cruise missiles, hijacking ships, Israeli ships, possibly they even took down a UK, United Kingdom tanker. And they've fired shots at one of our ships in the Red Sea. So they're toying, I'd say for the lack of a better word, they're toying and checking. And also we've had over 50, it's now over 50 rockets fired at our military bases in Iraq, in Syria, from Iran-backed proxies as well. So they're toying. They're not making any decision yet, but they're very smart, very calculated, and Israel has to be a step ahead supernaturally, and I think they will. I just don't know the time right now, Joshua, but we're watching them very closely as well.
We often hear in the church that we look to God's nature to see how he might react in situations. We look to see almost his handprint on things because we know how he's handled himself throughout time. He never changes. But it's interesting that you keep noting that Iran has this patience, because what do we know about the enemy? He has always had this patient long game because he also knows where he's going. And again, if I can look at the tactics of an individual group and say, wow, their tactics are lining up with the devil, these are lining up with God, it shouldn't take more than that. But yet we won't sit down and listen to these facts and put them somewhere. We want our emotions to be moved in the moment by rallies and yelling and grouping together, while those same people who are rallying would be the first victims of the attack for the people that they're standing and defending because of their belief system.
That's right.
It's just...
The Arabs are very, Avi Lipkin, an Israeli friend with IDF connections, he said that the Arabs have a tendency to get worked up and go to war too soon. And the Persians, I mean, from my perspective, don't. But Avi really focused on the Arabs.
Yep.
They get worked up, and we're seeing that right now. Hamas got worked up, got into it too fast, and are looking for help, and the Persians are just saying, not yet.
We had an amazing interview with him in Israel while we were there,
Awesome.
As a matter of fact. And he had great insight.
Oh, he does.
It's interesting because we would put out a piece of his interview and we got people corresponding with us saying, no, that's impossible, that's wrong, how dare you put this out? And then everything he was saying kept happening. So it was very interesting how scared the enemy is of the truth, that the second you begin to post something, everybody's calling to take it down, and that's exactly what we need to hear. What's happening now for you? If people want to hear your kind of insight, is there a place where they can go hear what you're doing in life, what you have coming up?
Well, thanks, Joshua. We post news 365 days out of the year at our website, which is watch.org. I also put out about 18 to 20 page weekly summary on Friday. It's on by subscription. It's world news that's biblically relevant with a focus on Israel, the Middle East, and also domestic. There's still a lot of interest in domestic issues as well. So we do that every week, and then also have another website, reach1billion.com. We are going after the 100 million American church attendees in America that are from replacement theology churches, and 1 billion worldwide with the truth of the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation. So we're also really attempting that right now, because the majority of our church in America, 65%, and worldwide, have no biblical understanding of the significance of Israel at this moment, which is, as the old late pastor from Dallas, W.A. Criswell at First Baptist used to say, if you want to know where we stand biblically and prophetically, watch what they're doing with Jerusalem, God's time clock.
Amen.
So much is happening about Jerusalem, and we'll continue to watch world leaders as they focus on the future plan of Jerusalem and Israel.
Bill, we're so grateful that you took time out of your day for us.
Thank you, Joshua.
Bill Koenig is an incredible resource. People often ask me and Caleb, where can I go? How do I find out what's happening now? Visit this website, subscribe to this newsletter. The information that I just heard is almost like somebody condensed an entire course of study, for a semester into my brain. So I love it, and we are so excited that he's here today. Thank you so much again, sir.
Thank you,
for being on the program.
God bless you. Thank you. Appreciate it.